My name is Heather Flake, and I am so excited to welcome you to the Life Coach University Conference all about relationships. We're going to have so much fun today. We have an amazing lineup for y'all, and we are so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. We know that there are so many other places you could be, different things you could be doing. We're so stoked that you decided to spend some time with us here today. So thank you so much for joining us. All right, so I am going to change my little name over here. But like I said, my name is Heather Flake. I am a women's marriage coach. So I work with women who feel just disenchanted, unempowered, just kind of bleh in the marriage, and I help them to feel better. So I love it, and it's the best thing ever. So if you are new to Life Coach University, I just want to invite you to check out lifecoachuniversity.com. So at any given time, there's always so many amazing things happening. There's so many brilliant coaches that volunteer here, and there's always lots of pay it forward talks happening, different conferences going on. So we encourage and invite you guys to check them all out and come join us here. And we work on a pay it forward platform. So we ask that as you attend these conferences and the pay it forward talks, that you do just that you pay it forward in the world in whatever way that you see fit. A great way to do that is to simply invite your friends to check out Life Coach University. The way I see it, everybody is struggling. Everybody is having a hard time because it's life. So just invite your friends and your family to come check it out. And there's so many amazing resources for help and hope and inspiration here. So we hope that you guys enjoy everything that you find here on Life Coach University. But let us get rolling here. Okay, so the way that this is going to go is we are breaking relationships down into 3 different segments. So we're going to start off by talking about the relationship that we have with ourselves, and then we'll move into the relationship we have with other people. And finally, we're going to talk about how to evaluate relationships and why that can be a helpful thing to do. Now, as you are participating, there is a little Q&A screen on the bottom of your screen. So at any point, if you have questions or you have something that you'd like to say or add to what's being said and shared here, we would love to hear from you. But just know that after all of our presenters have come on and shared their wisdom and their greatness with us, we are going to have a Q&A session. So feel free to put all of your questions in there, and I promise we will get to you and answer all of your questions. So without further ado, I am going to promote to panelists our first couple of friends here. So what is going to be happening is I'm inviting 2 different speakers on at a time. And to start off, we're talking about the relationship with self. So let me introduce our friends here. All right. First, we have the amazing Bryan Peterson. Bryan is coming to us from Pocatello, Idaho. And we asked Bryan what he loves about being a coach, and this is what he said. Bryan loves coaching because he gets to give back instead of taking, which he did for the majority of his life. It literally fills his cup. He walks away from a session feeling energized to the point that he can't fall asleep after his evening sessions with clients in different time zones. He got lost early on in life, and although he did a lot of amazing things, he felt empty and unfulfilled. Long story short, Bryan spent 30 plus years in the restaurant industry, abusing alcohol and drugs. A little bit of irony is that he hit rock bottom while he was working for a restaurant named Rock Bottom. It took a while and a lot of soul searching, but eventually Bryan found his purpose rested in helping others with their pain and their challenges. He was 47 when that happened, and fast forward to the present, he'll be 52, and he's so glad that he persevered through all the ups and downs because Bryan has something that needs to be shared, and there are people out there who desperately want to be helped. He knows that because he was one of them. So we're so excited to have Bryan. We cannot wait to hear from you. And I would love for you to tell everyone here, what does it actually mean to have a relationship with yourself?
What does it mean? Like, literally, I believe the relationship with yourself is the most important relationship out there amongst all of them, yet the most overlooked. Like, I would bet that the majority of the people out there were like, what do you mean a relationship with myself? What does that even mean? I mean, think about this. Like, you've got a relationship with your best friend, your mom, your boss, or your employees, your significant other, your cats. I mean, we have all these relationships out there, but nobody thinks about the relationship you have with yourself. So what does it mean? I like to look at it this way, like, how how would you like your relationship with your best friend to be? And then compare that to how your relationship is
Mm.
with yourself. Like, do I yell at myself a lot? How do I talk to myself? Like those two voices, the good Bryan and the bad Bryan. I've got different names for them, but what is good Bryan saying to me, or versus what is the mean Bryan saying to me, and which one's talking more? Which one do I listen to more? It's things like that that are going on. A lot of this conversation, I believe, determines how you show up in all the other areas of your life. Because think about this, like, maybe you have success in your career, but you're not so successful with your health. It has to do with the conversation you're having with yourself in each of those areas. In your career one, let's say, your conversation's great. It's like, Bryan, you got this, man. You're the best, and everything like that. But when it comes to health, my conversation might look like, oh, I'll never be able to give up sugar, or, whatever it is. And I'll say mean things to myself. And you didn't exercise. You're blah, blah, blah. Look at your nose. Look at your teeth, whatever it is. Right. So that's what it is. That, to me, that's what it means, is how do you talk to yourself? How do you treat yourself? Are you compassionate with yourself? And then just digging in and asking those questions, like, how do you want your relationship to be? Right.
Yeah, no, I love that so much. And I love how you pointed out that I think we spend most of our life not even noticing or realizing we have a relationship with ourselves, right? We focus so much on all the other relationships. And then I think sometimes you get to this point in your life where you're like, oh my heck, why is nothing working? Why am I not getting what I want? And I think so frequently it comes back to that, to your ability to have that relationship with yourself. So I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much for kind of explaining that to us. Beautiful.
I think that, yeah, it's the awareness muscle.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the thing, you guys, just being aware, right? If you leave today with nothing else but just this awareness of, oh, turns out I'm in a relationship with myself. Amazing. And just like Bryan said, be willing to ask yourself some questions and be willing to explore, like, oh, how do I talk to myself? And how do I treat me? Right? Because those things are very telling. That's totally like an inside look into your relationship with yourself. We also have the lovely Norma Frahn joining us from Pennsylvania. Norma's favorite thing about coaching is going to bed at night knowing that she helped someone that day. She is passionate about relationships, particularly the relationship with self, because it is foundational to how we move through life and experience relationships with others. So now Norma is going to explain to us how we actually create that relationship. It's one thing to know that it exists, but it's obviously we're going to need to know how. So Norma, tell us, how do we create a great relationship with ourselves?
All right. So some of this you might think that Bryan and I compared notes, but we really didn't. So because I might be a little repetitive, but I think that's a good thing because it's all really great points. So I think a great place to start to build a better relationship with yourself is really to reflect on all of the good relationships you have maintained in your life in the past, like your best friend or your partner or even your pet. And would you go out of your way to congratulate them or to be a shoulder to cry on, in a tough time? And notice how you treat that person and nurture that relationship, and whether or not you do the same thing for yourself. That's just a great place to start. Another thing you can do is, just like Bryan talked about, is listen to that chatter in your head. I think this is like the one of the biggest things that you can do. And how you really talk to yourself matters. And like, do you call yourself names? Do you berate yourself when you do make a mistake? Would you say the same thing to a child or a best friend or that loved one we just talked about? Negative self-talk is slowly but surely kind of erodes your confidence, and it absolutely sabotages any efforts that you have towards making a loving relationship with yourself. And because it happens almost, you don't even know what's happening sometimes. If you're constantly berating yourselves, just like any other thought you often think, our brains are going to start believing what you're telling it. So catch those negative self comments and change them up and just be really aware of them so you don't fall into that trap of actually believing some of that stuff that your brain's offering up. Let's see. So another great place. This is a really practical tip that I think anybody, you can do this as soon as you get off this conference. Pay attention to the media that you're consuming. Anything that leaves you feeling depleted or less than good about yourself is something you can probably live without. Think about all the different things you are consuming, whether it's social media, television, Netflix, whatever. If it makes you feel anxious or depleted or even a little self-critical, you might want to consider doing all of the unfollows and stopping the engagement with those things. So just a real quick example of how this showed up for me. Before I started my weight loss journey, I used to follow weight loss success stories, thinking it would be this incredible inspiration for me. But instead, what really happened, it conjured up a whole lot of negative, shameful thoughts about my own body and led me to make very restrictive, punishing decisions about how I was going to lose weight. It really became an unhealthy obsession. But when I unfollowed those accounts and eliminated one or two very potent sources of negative thinking in my life, everything started to feel a little bit easier on that weight loss journey. So if what you're exposing yourself to doesn't bring you joy, be very intentional, unfollow, delete, and just get it out of your life. And then I think the last thing I'd offer is to start having a really great relationship with yourself is paying attention to your needs. Take care of yourself, your physical health, make those doctor's appointments, get plenty of sleep, stay hydrated, and practice gratitude. And I don't just mean like the gratitude that, we have our gratitude journals and they're great. But what I'm talking about is gratitude for yourself and your accomplishments. Really taking some time to give yourself credit for the things you accomplish is a powerful practice. And that creates motivation, it builds confidence, and teaches you self-pride. So don't skip that part, because the other great benefit of that is kind of demonstrates to your brain that you don't need the external validation to be proud of yourself. You can do that for yourself. And then I think the last thing I'd leave you with is to really practice self-care, and not the kind of self-care like manicures and spas. That's all great stuff, but really practice taking care of yourself, like I said earlier. And just know that caring for yourself is not self-indulgent. It's self-preservation. It's what we need to do to take care of our own mental health. So take the time to do that, give yourself the credit, and give yourself a whole lot of gratitude. And that is it.
So good. Thank you, Norma. I love that part that you just said, that self-care is not selfish, right? It's not self-indulgent. It's
That's right.
self-preservation. Like, that's
Exactly.
so good. So true. So powerful. And I think too, just kind of in a little nutshell, as you leave today, you guys, and you start thinking about this relationship with yourself, just like Norma and Bryan have both said, just start paying attention to how you treat yourself. And I think too, a really good exercise, I love what Norma said about like your social media, or what are you consuming? If you're consuming all these things that make you feel crappy and then you're expecting yourself to feel really great, that, you're just digging yourself in a hole. There's going to be a lot of conflict. So I think that was really insightful to have the courage to just unfollow those things that are not building you up and just decide to really invest in yourself, in like really honing in on who you are and loving you. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
You're welcome.
Okay, Norma, I'm going to put you back to an attendee and we will see you soon. All right, Chris. While Chris is coming on, I'm going to share with you Chris's bio. So Chris is joining us today from Redondo Beach. And what he loves most about being a coach is he loves the energy he gets from working with and helping his clients heal, grow, and thrive. He's excited to join the April Relationship Conference because relationships are the most important / challenging / incredible part of being human. Relationships provide our greatest opportunities to experience love and growth. And Chris believes that's why we are here. He has been doing a lot of work to improve the relationship he has with himself and the relationships he has with everyone else. Chris has made a lot of progress in this area and is delighted to share what he has learned so far. Chris, welcome. We are so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Heather, and thanks for putting on this conference, covering my new favorite subject, really, relationships.
Right?
I love it because it is such an important part of life. Like it's everything. It's our opportunity to express love and to receive love, and like what's better than that, right? So yeah,
I
thank you.
totally agree. It really is. It's what it's all about. So now you guys, we're moving into the second section, and Bryan's cat is coming right along with us. And we are discussing our relationships with other people. So Chris, go ahead and tell us, how can we feel more love for the people that we're in relationships with?
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you, Heather. Well, I'm going to basically piggyback off the last couple of questions and answers, because I think it starts with loving yourself first. If you don't love yourself, then it's really hard to be open to receiving love, and it's hard to give love because we're caught up in our own negative emotions and feeling bad, and we have these walls up. And so I have personal experience with this for a long time, from my early teenage years into my 30s, into my late 30s. I suffered from depression, anxiety, PTSD, and I had all the walls up. I didn't want anyone to come in, and so my relationships suffered. And it's because I was just so caught up in all of that, and the negative self-talk, beating myself up, not feeling like I was deserving and worthy of love, and so it's just, I couldn't really feel it from anyone else because I wasn't feeling it within myself. So I believe that's the starting point. It's like, learn to love yourself so that you're free to give more love and to receive that love. And I really think that's critical. A few ways you can do that. One is, whatever has happened in your past, whatever you have experienced, whatever you've done, you have to forgive yourself. Like that's the main thing. Know that, like, you were hurt, you didn't know better at the time, or even if you did, we all make mistakes, we all do things as part of being a human. Just unconditionally forgive yourself, and then know that you are worthy, you're deserving, you are enough. And to do that, practice remembering that every day with affirmation. So every day, tell yourself, I am enough, I am worthy and deserving of love. And then it'll start to grow. It's like planting a seed and watering it with these affirmations every day. It'll start to grow within you. And like that starts to lower the walls, that your resistance to it starts to weaken. And then your ability to give and receive love starts to strengthen, it starts to grow. And so lower that guard, forgive yourself, really start to love yourself, and then give more. Like I firmly believe that in life, if you want something, give that thing away. If you want more money, start being generous with your money, give more money away. And so if you want more love in your life, and if you want to feel that love, then do more loving things, be more loving with the people you want love from. And so stop worrying so much about, I'm not getting enough. Start focusing more on giving, give that love away. So do things that are kind, that are compassionate, and really caring for the people that you love, and do it from a place of desire for service, for helping other people, from a place of love, not like, well, I'm going to do this so I can get back. Do it just for the sake of giving. And that's when you really start to stop focusing so much on all of your own pain and suffering, and when you're giving to others, then you're coming from this place of love, and it opens you up to experience that. And so I think that's the main thing. It's like, love yourself, and then have the intention of giving love, and then you will be able to receive it back, and then just allow it to come back. You have to be willing to accept it as well. So
No, Chris, I think that's so powerful. And I think it's fascinating that the question is, okay, how can we feel more love? And we're thinking about other people, and it always is going to come right back to yourself. Right. And
Yep.
just the way you put that was so eloquent and beautiful, but it's just like Bryan said too, you can't draw water from an empty well. So if we're going to feel love for more people and have more loving relationships, like you have to start with the person in the mirror every time. And
Great.
just that whole concept, I love that idea of if there's something you want, like be willing, if you want more of something, give what you already have. Like that's really cool. And I'm curious, tell me this. So what if I don't really feel like I have a lot of self-love, but I'm trying to love more people in my life. So if I already am feeling like I don't have a lot to give to myself, like what would you tell me I should do? How do I start? If more of my focus is on giving to other people, but I don't feel like there's much to give from, where would you recommend I start, I guess?
Well, you start with meditation and just setting an intention every day of loving yourself, having self empathy and compassion. So taking care of yourself. And to me, love is a verb. It is expressed through actions and how we're showing up. And so don't just think, well, I want more love or I want to feel loved. Do loving things for yourself.
Yes.
Like Norma said, take care of yourself, sleep well, eat well, get good exercise, get sunshine, especially in the morning, because that helps with our internal clocks. And like, so do all the things that are good for you. And
I
that
love
like, so
that.
that's the starting point. And I really think affirmations. So like we develop a lot of negative programming from the time we're young children, and that sticks with us in adult. And so like everyone has been talking about, we have these like this negative self-talk, it's mental patterns. So start to shift from negative to positive through daily affirmations. Write it down, or don't. Like if you're not willing to do that, then just talk to yourself and say loving, kind things, and do it daily until it starts to stick. And then keep doing it, because you don't want to go back to those old patterns.
No, totally. I love that. And I just had the thought too, while you were thinking while you're speaking with affirmations and stuff, if it feels challenging for you to write like, oh, I love me, I think I'm the best person in the world or whatever, and you don't believe that yet, something I've learned is to at least write something that you do believe. And you can just strip it down. So maybe you just need to start at like, I am, and put your name, so at least it's not negative anymore. Instead of I am fat and I'm slow and I am old and I'm worthless. No, no, no. Let's just say I am Heather Flake. And then once we feel good with that, maybe we can move to maybe it's possible that I'm worthy of love. So I think sometimes people hear affirmations and we think, oh, I have to think these things that I don't believe. But I would just say, no, like pick something you can believe that is on the path of love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about making that shift and
Yeah.
go at your own pace. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
exactly. If you can't go from, I hate myself to I am worthy and deserving of all of the
Sure.
love in the world, then exactly start to go from super negative to less negative to neutral to slightly
Yes.
positive to even more positive. And it
Yes.
works. You'll get there. And so be patient with
Absolutely.
yourself and do it. Actually do the work.
Yeah, just be committed to doing it no matter how long it takes. If you do it, it's inevitable that will happen for you. I love that. Thank you so much, Chris. That was so helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is going to help us understand how we can improve a difficult or a strained relationship.
I just want to comment real quick on that last one. It does help with giving it in order to receive it, because when I was going through my phase after I'd stopped drinking and stuff, I couldn't look at the man in the mirror. And so, as a kid growing up, I didn't cry a lot, or I was taught not to cry, whatever. So what I did was I wanted to experience compassion. And the first way that I found to do it was, believe it or not, was with my cats. Like when they were going through something, I found the empathy to the point where it would make me cry a little bit. And I was like, I could challenge myself to experience that for myself as well. But it was only until I mustered up that actual feeling for like my cats or my wife or somebody else. And so that really helped Chris. Chris, that was amazing. I mean, it really brought up a lot for me just thinking back on that. But difficult or strained relationship. Well, I didn't find any answers in my Encyclopedia Britannica. So I just asked myself, what would I do? Right? Because I know we can all Google, we can do a bunch of this stuff, but I came up with just 3 simple steps and then kind of like a bonus tip that you could do for difficult or strained relationships. The first one is going inward. What's your role in it? Step 2 is the communication. What does the integrity of the communications look like? And then number 3 is what are the boundaries and toleration? What does the environment look like? So step 1, like going inward. Ask yourself what your role in this is, because we only have our circle of control. That's all we can do. And then our circle of influence. I can't reach out there to the other person in the relationship, whether it's my boss, my spouse, or friend or whatever, and make them do something else. So I can always focus on what I can control. And then that would look like, I would always dive into, because I know it's my thoughts or my beliefs that are really driving my actions ultimately. So what are my beliefs about relationships in general? Like if it's a employer, employee, boss, employee type relationships, and I'm the employee, what are my beliefs and thoughts about my boss or bosses in general that might be driving me to act in a certain way? What are my beliefs about myself as an employee? I would dive into those thoughts and see if there's anything that may be not necessarily true or untrue or whatever, but things that I can shift, ideas about things that I could shift that can move me in a better direction to lead me to take actions that might strengthen this relationship. So that was the first one. The second one was communication and the integrity. This is both verbal and nonverbal. Like your nonverbal communication is the majority of what we see, right? So and what do I want to communicate versus what I'm actually communicating, right? So I want to communicate to my wife that I'm listening and I'm present and stuff. But when she comes home from work and we start to have that conversation, how was your day and stuff like that, and I'm scrolling through social, that's my nonverbal. So I've learned that immediately, obviously, is not the best thing in the world to do, but you can control these things. And then another way to actually find out if you're communicating the right things is there's so many things that I will do thinking that she's receiving them the way that I'm intending, when maybe she's not. Like maybe she's seeing it as a negative thing that I'm doing. And so I have to dive into that. And you could simply start by just asking, like, how did you take that? Or how did you interpret that? It might be as a simple question like that when you're having it, to find out, well, I think you're just being rude to me, honey. And I'm like, well, okay. So now I know, but you can start to uncover and clear it up so that what you're actually wanting to communicate is what you're actually communicating. And so you can kind of clean that up a little bit. That might help it. The third thing is,
Can I pause you?
Yeah.
Sorry, Bryan. Sorry, not trying to slow your roll. No, I just have to speak to this because I'll forget. Are you guys hearing this? The question is, how can I, help a strained or bad relationship? And it's like, oh, yourself. Like, again, this whole theme, like all of this, the foundation, all of it, you start with you. Like, if any of us ever learn how to control people, we will teach all of you. Okay. But at the end of the day, the only person that you can control is yourself. So I just love how Bryan is saying that. Like, look at yourself. Like, what are the thoughts that you're having about this person that you feel like things are not going well with? Because I think, Bryan, like most of the time when in a relationship is strained or bad, we're just like them. They do this, they do that. It is them. Like, it's so easy to put all the blame on them. And then we're powerless and we're like, well, sucks that they suck. Sucks that this sucks. But that's so disempowering. So when it's just like, oh yes, like how am I contributing to the strain? Like, how am I making this difficult? Because there you're going to find all of your power. And I love how you're talking about body language, right? Like sometimes, way more frequently than not, I will be on my phone and my husband will say something and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm listening to you. I just got to finish sending this message. No, I'm not listening to him. I'm sending a message. Like I can't really multitask. No one really can, right? So I love that reminder of like, put the D word phone down. Let's be present. Let's pay attention to like what we're saying with our bodies. So beautiful. Keep going.
Yeah, like when you walk into a room and you're like, hey, honey, blah, 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 but you don't even pay attention to what they're doing. Like she'll ask me a question. I'm already in the middle of something. And then it's like, oh, you're not listening to me. No, I was in the middle of something. So you have to like the awareness muscle. Like
Yes.
let's exercise that awareness muscle.
Totally.
So yeah, totally. I don't know if you heard my cats arguing in the background, but I was like, yes, work on that relationship, girls. Uh, and so then the third thing, and the bonus tip's going to be great. You're going to love this one. The third thing is like your environment. So what is both physical and emotional? I'm talking here too. So what do your boundaries look like? What are your tolerations? Do you even have any boundaries? Most people that I even speak with don't even, like they may have like boundaries that they've kind of set, like you're not going to eat my Oreo cookies or, whatever they are. But we have other boundaries. Like let's take an employer and employee situation. Let's say I'm the employee. Does my boss tolerate me turning in my projects late? Has he set a boundary there? These are all things that can fit or funnel into the relationship being strained if you don't have like the proper boundaries or tolerations in there. And then after you've already worked on the communication part, you can now communicate these new boundaries, because what I found is that once you want to establish boundaries, it's not always necessarily the easiest thing to actually establish them, right? So what does that conversation look like? Like if I want to tell my wife all of a sudden, I'm not going to tolerate A, B, and C, I can't just walk into the room and do that. I have to put myself in the other person's shoes. What would I think if my wife came in and demanded A, B, and C? First of all, we're not demanding, but you get the point. And so if you look at it from that framework, it's like, okay, I do the tolerations list first. Like, what am I tolerating about myself first? Like, am I letting myself do A, B, and C? There's so many times where I'll go to say something and it gets out before I even stop myself. So I'm like, I'm just tolerating letting myself say the first thing that comes to my mind or whatever it is. So we can always look at those, right? So just to recap, is always go inward. What's my role in it? The communication is your communication and integrity with what you want to convey. And then what are your boundaries and tolerations look like? And my bonus tip, this could help you like de-escalate any relationship in and of itself, right? Just clean the lenses through which you're looking at the relationship. And I love having classes because I get to do this. Like, how do you visualize the relationship anyway, right? We have 400 billion things coming at us at one time, and our brain has to filter most of them out. We're like deletion machines. We delete half of the stimuli coming in, and what you've deleted possibly could help you out. What are the good things? Like all you're seeing with the strained relationship, all we're focusing on at this point, because it's strained or it's difficult, is what's going wrong. Why is it bad? Why do I, all these negative things, because we've forgotten about the good side, right? So if we clean up those lenses and we say, what's good about it? Now I get reflection in here, so I can't see, but so what's good about the relationship? What was good in the past? What do you like about it? What are the things that that you both share in common and things like that? And that little thing, doing that in and of itself might tip the balance in a way to say, oh my God, this relationship isn't as strained as I thought. Like my boss and I actually do get along. We've just been fighting over this one project. And now I'm just seeing all the negative things that he's done before, and I'm bringing those to highlight. Same with my significant other or things like that. So if you could just see the positive side as much as you're seeing the negative, that might help you out.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that is so powerful and so true. And I love too when you were talking about boundaries. And I think sometimes there's a lot of misconception about boundaries. We think like that we set a boundary and then we think it's the other person's job to honor the boundary. That's not true. If you set a boundary, it is your job only to honor the boundary. So, and even like Bryan was saying, there might be some boundaries that you feel like you need to communicate. Like, okay, honey, listen, these are my Oreos and I just don't want you eating them anymore. If you eat the Oreo, then I'm going to do X, Y, and Z or whatever, right? But there's other boundaries that we don't ever even need to say anything. Like, it's not like I go around and I'm like, hey, if anyone hits me, I'm going to call the police. Like, that's a boundary I have. Like, if you hit me, I'm going to leave and I'm going to, do what's necessary. But it's not like I feel like that's necessary to announce when I walk into a Walmart. I just know that that's a boundary, right? But just like he was saying, if you set a boundary, whatever it is, you need to be clear on why you set it and then withhold your boundary. It's not the other person's job to comply. It's your job to like stand by your boundary. That's you having your back. But isn't it fascinating, you guys, how we talk about relationships with other people, but still it's all about your relationship with yourself. Your ability to have amazing relationships outside of you, I think, goes right back to your ability to love yourself. So and we are going to bring on the amazing Lani. So let me do that. Okay. So now, friends, we are bringing on the Miss Lani Kim. Promote to panelists. Okay. Lani is joining us from Los Angeles, California. We're so excited to have you here. Oh, are you here, Lani? There she is. She's coming on. Amazing. Ask her to unmute. Hi, Lani.
Hello,
Hey,
Heather.
how are you? We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be
Of
here.
course. Amazing. Okay, I'm going to read Lani's bio because it's so fantastic and y'all need to know her more. Okay. In addition to being a coach, Lani is an educator, homeschool mama, real estate investor, and documentary addict. Fun fact about her, she self-delivered her youngest child in her shower. Like, did you guys hear that? Like, I read that and I was like so shook. That's amazing. She says it was unplanned, but such a lovely memory because she was the first person her daughter ever saw. What she loves most about coaching is elevating the quality of relationship with herself. Today, she's most excited for you all to learn how to improve your relationships immediately simply by choosing to think differently. Lani says that you'll gain Jedi-like mindset tools, but alas, no cool lightsabers. She is looking forward to listening to everyone else, to all the brilliant minds on this panel, because she always benefits too. So thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Heather. I know I was furiously writing notes. And what I love about this is you guys have set such an amazing foundation for me that I get to just piggyback off of. Yeah, so today I'm going to be discussing how do I know if I should end or work to improve a relationship. And I broke it down into kind of 3 steps. And thank you, Bryan, and everyone else for doing such a great job, because I don't have to go into detail about so much of this. You guys have done such a great job. But my number 1 in this is why in your relationship. Number 2 is boundaries, which you guys have done a fantastic job of discussing. And then 3, the dun, make a decision. So the why, I love about talking about the why, because I think in most decisions that we make, it comes down to the why. So whether this is in a relationship or any other decision that you're going to make, the why is so important, because that is your foundation, and you get to take that foundation with you whenever you move forward. And so in this case, the why is, why are you in the relationship? We say this as like a rhetorical question, but it really bodes us to think about it, because we have to differentiate what is our personal reasons for being in the relationship and what are some expectations that we've brought with us due to maybe societal or cultural or familial type of conditioning. And we don't even realize that. We step into a relationship and we just assume that the other person knows exactly what we know. Their expectations are exactly the same as our expectations. So breaking it down between what we personally want from the relationship and all those other things that we've brought with us, because sometimes we'll see that we don't necessarily even want what we're expecting from people, right? We come into a relationship and for me, one of them with my husband is that he would help me with certain things that my dad helped around the house with. And then when he didn't, I thought, something's wrong with this guy. He should know that these are the things that you just do. And I had to realize, oh, that's an expectation I brought with me that he had no clue about, and I didn't communicate that to him. So where are you bringing these expectations into your relationship will really help you to see not only personally what you want out of the relationship, but maybe you can actually edit out some things that personally aren't interesting to you. You just brought them with you. And I think that is so great when you can simplify your expectations from from your relationship. And then also, are you giving to yourself as much as you are giving to others? And I say this from my mom point of view, because I think we often think, oh, as moms, we pour into our kids, we're pouring into our family. And I have to remind myself sometimes that that pouring in is really an attachment to the result. I'm pouring in because I'm wanting something from the relationship. I want to be the cool mom. I want to be the cool wife. I want to be the sacrificial mom. I want to be the sacrificial wife, right? So really, when I get frustrated, it's being attached to that result because I wanted something out of it. It wasn't freely given unconditionally, like I had an expectation of, I give you this, you give me that, right? And I think we have to be really careful when we get into that mode of, is that our definition of what we want out of a relationship, right? And it can sometimes be, right? I mean, you can sometimes have expectations and expect them to be met, but in a lot of relationships where it's about a loving relationship with family and friends, a lot of times that's not what we want to put into the relationship, right? We want to freely give unconditional love. And then Bryan, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I'm going to just stop really quick. I just want to like stand on my chair and be like, yes. Like, I love that so much. I think that is so powerful how you're just like, again, like, let's look inward and then let's just ask why. Like I think it's so easy to become the victim, and it's like, hi, you chose to be in the relationship. Why are we still here? And then just your whole thing about expectations, just like, amen. So amazing. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. Thanks, Heather. And then, so a couple of other things on that is, and Bryan touched upon this, I believe, is what are we looking for out of the relationship, right? So is it based on, I'm looking for an emotional expectation, or is there a goal I'm trying to go with, like maybe a business relationship? And then also basing it on value. And we can think of value in many different ways, right? We can think of values as in like moral values, and then we can think of like more monetary type of values. But what are we wanting out of this relationship? Like, are we looking to pour in value? Are we looking to extract value? And so when we really start to define these things, it really helps us to make the next decision. We get to define it for ourselves. And then, is this a one-way or two-way relationship? Is it both? And so often, everyone here touched upon relationship with self. I think so often we think it's a two-way, but we are really looking at it a one-way lens. We see, this is what I want out of the relationship. Is it fulfilling me? And I know often we think it's a two-way because we're like, but I'm putting this in. But like Bryan said, sometimes we have assumptions about what we are pouring in and how people are receiving it. And that's not necessarily so. So is this a one-way, a two-way? And if we say it's a two-way, is it really a two-way? How can we better define what that looks like? And then also the other thing that I think is, why is this relationship important to me in the first place? Again, it's a rhetorical question that we say things like, well, of course I love my husband. Of course I love my kids. Of course I love my parents. Of course, this coworker is valuable to me. But why is that important? in the first place? It's such a foundational question, but I think it's really helps us to guide how we make decisions and what decisions that we make. And then the other part of this, the why, the second one, boundaries, what I just wanted to add, because Bryan and Heather did a fantastic job of touching on that, was where in boundaries do we think we're setting a boundary, and where are we coming from a place of entitlement? I think so often we get confused, right? Like, you just don't do this. Well, how much of that is, bringing up the cookies, right? It's like, well, if it's that difficult, is it really worth, your wife eats your cookies, right? Is it really worth the friction, right? Because are you coming at it like, I'm entitled to have these cookies? You're not really entitled. It's a choice, right?
Yes.
Do you want to make the cookies that big of a deal? Or do you want to just say, I love my wife and she keeps eating my cookies. I don't want this to be an issue. I'm just not going to bring the cookies in. Maybe I'll leave them at work. Maybe I'll leave them in my car. Maybe, I'll just buy a mini pack and only eat that at the store, whatever it looks like, right? We think because our boundary makes sense that we're entitled to it. And so I think we have to be really careful with that. And the third one is making your decision, right? And when I say make a decision, it feels like dun, 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 like, here we go, here's a decision. It's so dramatic. But remember that often when we make the decision, it actually clarifies so much of our purpose and our intention in it, because when we start to go down that road, our brains will start to evaluate like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected. Maybe I want to reevaluate my decision, right? But when you do your why and your boundaries, it also gives you peace over your decision. It may not feel great, probably won't feel great, but it will give you peace because you have that intention, right? So for instance, if you are an athlete, right, and you're so set and determined to lift 5 more pounds, 10 more pounds, right? You know that it's not going to feel great when you do that, right? But it's okay because you have an intention for that challenge that you're going through. And that decision comes the same way. And you have that foundational reason and intention of why you're making that decision in the first place. So why, boundaries, and decision is kind of how I look at evaluating your relationships.
No, that was brilliant. Thank you so much. I feel like you just gave so many very helpful, applicable tools. Like when you were talking about the boundary, I've never really thought about it that way, but it's like, okay, is this boundary worth setting? Like, is this just going to cause way more friction? Like, I just love that idea. Like, is this really that big of a deal, or am I just being entitled and I can take a chill pill? And I love that. I love that so much. That's just brilliant. So thank you so much, Lani. That was amazing.
Thanks, Heather.
Of course. I'm just going to briefly add in a couple of notes just about why we should even do it, and how, just maybe a couple more ideas on how to evaluate a relationship. I was thinking this weekend, so I'm from a tiny little town in northern Arizona. I don't currently live there, but all of my family still does. And there was a couple very tragic deaths, and then another person was in a really bad accident there. And so so much of this weekend, I was just thinking about all of these families and individuals that are just grieving and have experienced all of this loss and this huge change overnight. And it just made me really think about my relationships. And I feel like we hear songs like "Live Like You Are Dying," and when you say goodbye to someone, make sure you really say goodbye, because you never know when you might see him again or whatever. And it's like, yeah, like that's nice, I should do that. But I think it's really easy to just live your life and do every day and just kind of be like up to here with people, right? Like sometimes I'm just like, my kids are driving me freaking nuts. Like, stop touching me, go away, even though I love them fiercely. And I'm like, so I think it's so easy to get in that mode. Or it's just like, oh yeah, like I see my husband all the time. Like, yeah, he's cool. Sometimes he's not cool, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, like I love these people so fiercely. And are my actions reflecting that? So it just really had me thinking. But I think, why should you evaluate your relationships? For yourself, so you can get even more. And it's just like Chris was talking about love. Like, if there's so much love to be had, if love is always an option, why in the world would we not like be all in on that, right? Like, why would we not sign up for feeling more love, for sharing more love, giving more love, if that's always an option to us? And I get it. I know sometimes we have a lot of thoughts that make it hard for us to feel or to give that love. But I just wanted to kind of share that thought that when it comes to evaluating your relationships, it starts with yourself and literally asking yourself, okay, how do I feel? Right. So within a marriage, or within you and a child, or you and a coworker, or you and somebody you go to church with, whatever, it's just like, okay, how do I feel? What are my emotions? I think emotions are such a good temp check to let you know kind of where you're at. And if you're feeling resentment, or you're feeling guilt, or you're feeling exhaustion, you simply just want to say, all right, why? Like, what's going on for you, friend? And remember, we love ourselves. We're nice to ourselves. So we're not beating up. We're not being like, what the heck is wrong with you? I can't believe you're acting that way. Like, these are your children. You made them. You should love them fiercely always. It's like, oh yeah, totally makes sense that you're feeling frustrated. Like, what's going on for you? Tell me everything. Like, you want to treat yourself like your own best friend, like Bryan was saying. But the answers that will be revealed in that are so telling and so helpful in you moving forward. Another really simple way to evaluate your relationship is to ask yourself 3 simple questions. What's working? What's not working? What am I going to do different tomorrow? Like, easy peasy. It allows your brain, like the glasses, to scan for what's good automatically. Your brain's going to have a list of like 9,000 things that are not working, but you're just like, no, brain, we're just taking one of those today. You just focus in on one, choose one. And then immediately following that is the action step. Like, okay, so how am I going to make it different tomorrow? And I've loved I feel like a huge theme that has come out of this conference is YOU, like you, like you really do have so much control over how you feel and how you act and what you get in these relationships based on what you put in and what you're thinking, obviously. So thank you to all of you amazing coaches. You've been so phenomenal. I feel like I've benefited so much from this conference. So if all of you will raise your hands for me, Lani, you just stay right there, but I'm going to bring everyone back on as panelists because we have some questions to answer from our amazing attendees. All right. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to pop down here. So for those of you that are attending, if you have any additional questions, please. Oh, Norma, I forgot you. Norma, if you will raise your hand, I'll bring you on. So yeah, so if you have any questions, now is your moment. Any question, you guys, regarding any kind of relationship, these peeps are your experts. Throw it in there. Norma, if you'll raise your hand again, it went down for some reason. There you are. Perfect. Okay. Norma's coming on. Okay, the first question is this. Okay. I work in a school's cafeteria and I hear kids talking about how mom and dad are fighting again. It breaks my heart to hear these kids growing up and see and hear their parents fight. How can parents show love in front of their kids when they actually don't get along? That's an amazing question. Is there one of you that would like to answer that question for our friend? Chris? Okay. Take it away, Chris.
Sure. I have to throw it out there. I don't have kids, but I have been in fights with my significant other, so I can talk to this. I think it comes down to setting an intention and then practicing that. And there's a really cool exercise you can do every day, and it's to set a very specific intention for a specific amount of time. So you can wake up and say, you know what, for the next hour, or maybe for the lunch hour today, it is my intention to be incredibly present and curious and ask really good questions. And so no matter what happens during that specific period of time, that is your focus and that's what you're going to do. And so you can set that kind of an intention for when you're in front of your kids. You can say, okay, whenever the kids are around, no matter what is going on around me, no matter what my significant other does, no matter if they do something that I think is outrageous and ridiculous and hurtful, I am going to remember my intention, and I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to be patient and loving and kind and cheerful, and I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to let my hurt feelings come out in yelling and fighting and setting that example or putting my kids in that position. So set an intention, practice it, and stick to it.
Thank you, Chris. I think that's great. And the other thought I had too is like, it takes two people to fight, right? So I think if you can be that person that is just committed to not fighting. And I mean, especially, it's not like you want to like pretend and in front of your kids be so loving and nice, and then in the bedroom you're holy terror. Like let's just practice being nice and good, for like the majority of the time. But I just think like in my mind it's like a cycle, right? And so you as the individual, you can't control the other person, but like how are you contributing in this fight and in this contention? What is it that you're bringing to the table, and why, right? Just like everyone has shared here, why are we fighting? What is it that this is really about for you? Try to leave that person out of it. Like just really get really clear and vulnerable with yourself, and then just decide like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and pull out of that cycle. He can be mad and angry, or she can be upset with me. It's totally fine, but I'm not going to engage back in that. Does anyone else have anything else they'd like to speak to with that question? Yeah, Bryan, go ahead.
I saw Lani wants to too, but I just wanted to throw in, like, you have to be aware that you're doing it in front of your children or not. I for one, do not have kids either, but it's the awareness of it. Like, how often are you fighting in front of your kids? You could just start like, I always do tracking sheets of, if I want to find out how much energy I'm putting into something, I can track my activities throughout the day, but you can also track, how many times do I argue in front of my kids a day? Let's make it a goal to shrink that or whatever. So that awareness muscle, just being aware that you're actually doing it. I mean, I would imagine a lot of parents don't even realize how often they're doing it. So.
No, I think that's fantastic. Amazing. All right, Lani, what would you like to share?
Definitely picking back off of this is, I have two plans, and one is talk to your partner. I mean, like, what is your plan when because when you talk about it, when you're not emotional, right, then it makes sense. And so you can be sensible about the way that you handle that. And so my husband and I actually we go into our master bathroom because it's the most like contained area of the house. And he'll just say, hey, do you want to step into the bathroom? And it's just we already know what the plan of action is. And he's not calling me out for anything. It's just more like, do you want the privacy of our bathroom so the kids don't have to listen to us? And it's a great way for us to take that transition where we still want to discuss it, but we take it into our master bathroom. And then we each have our own plan, and just communicating to each other what our boundaries are. Like, okay, hey, do you have any last words? Because I think I'm going to step out of the room right now. I don't think that this is going to go anywhere, And so there's that where, if your partner is not cooperating, you still have a plan, like you guys said, on how you are responsibly taking care and setting that boundary for yourself. And Bryan, I love that you said track, because I think when my daughter was little, I used to track like her food, her poops, her pees, and people used to laugh at us, but I'm like, I actually have a pattern, and I was able to potty train my kids really early. But same thing, intentionally, like if you really care about something, is it really that big a deal to take a piece of paper out? Just like, oh, okay. I didn't step away from the conversation 3 times today. But also on the flip side, like you all mentioned, celebrating the times that you did so that your body doesn't feel like it's this terrible thing to do. You still get to celebrate, but definitely that intentionality and planning ahead of time when you're not emotional, I think really helps to make a plan that everyone agrees to. And And that you can also say even to your kids, like, hey, you know, there's going to be times where I step away, daddy steps away from the conversation. And this is just what we do as a family. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong, but this is what happens in relationships. We disagree and we have to work through that, right? We don't want to be disrespectful of each other, but we respect each other by stepping away so we don't say something respectful to each other, and giving them that comfort to know that that's okay, that nothing's gone wrong, right? It might feel uncomfortable, but it's a plan that is going to bring like reconciliation or what, how, you know, peace or whatever you want to say that is, but making it okay to step away from the conversation. Because I think that teaches them too how to handle disagreements.
No, I think that's so beautiful. Yeah. So important to help them know that, like, oh yeah, this is totally normal. This is absolutely going to happen in any relationship you ever have. This is our way of dealing with it respectfully. I love that. Okay. Very good. All right. The other question says, I'm a mom of 3, pregnant with my 4th. I work full time. I don't have time for self-care. My partner calls me rude names like the 4-letter C word. I am doing my best. What the heck? Why is this happening to me? I thought I married a good guy. He won't go for couples counseling. Okay. Is there anyone that wants to kick it off and give some answer to our friend? Okay, Norma. Yeah, go ahead, Norma.
You know, I think we have to, like, how do you define self-care is the first question. So I think self-care truly starts with just how you're thinking about yourself and how you choose to think about the others in your life and your life circumstances. So self-care, like I said when I was speaking, doesn't have to be like the things that we sometimes think of, you know, like the manicures and the spa treatments. And while they're all very lovely things, sometimes it could be just as simple as just getting a little more connected with yourself, deciding what's important to you and how you want to proceed with that relationship. And I think that's just a foundational place to start, especially in a situation like this.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think too, it's just like a lot of the things that have been shared, like you want to ask yourself why, like, why am I in this relationship? Right. And then even just like your thought, like, I thought I married a good guy. Like maybe that thought sounds kind of nice to you, but I think that's probably poison for you. Like when you think that, then you're
Mhm.
feeling so like dejected and discouraged because you thought he was going to be good, but you're thinking he's not good. So there's a lot of conflict there. So I think too, friend, is just getting very in touch with yourself and doing that with a lot of compassion and curiosity. And then another tool is to think about your spouse and be like, man, what must be going on for him to be treating me like this? Like, I wonder what's going on for my husband for him to be acting in this way. And I think doing that can help you to access a little bit of compassion and access like maybe just to see a bigger picture. And then maybe you can like come together for a conversation or something like that. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share on that note? Chris? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to second what you just said. For him to treat you that way means there's something going on with him, because healthy, happy people who are feeling love don't treat other people that way. So, you know, there's a saying, hurt people hurt people. So remember that, and try your best to be empathetic, compassionate, curious. Maybe you can explore that with him coming from a place of true love and wanting to help him, because it seems like he's hurting.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this next question, our friend says, I'm married, but I don't want to be in this marriage, but I can't leave. It would break my family. I would be a horrible person to break my family down. I feel so much shame and guilt for wanting to leave, but I feel like I'm wasting my life away in this marriage. It is so hard because my partner is a good person too. But how do I stay happy in this marriage when I want to leave, but really feel like I can't? Well, I'm just going to go ahead and go first. I'm going to pull this up so I can see all this parts. I think it's really disempowering to tell yourself that you can't do things. So I just want to tell you, friend, that you absolutely can leave, that no one has like you're not locked and confined to your spouse with chains, right? Like, and I think just giving yourself the space, maybe to even look yourself in the mirror and say, I can leave if I want to, because that is an option. So I think that was just the first thing that I thought, that it's really disempowering to tell yourself you can't do things, because then your brain also gives you more evidence and more things that you also can't do. And I think it's just owning, like, you are in the marriage because you want to be, because you could leave. So if you do want to leave, maybe it's just having the courage to really look at those reasons and put it all out there. And I'll tell you that the guilt and the shame, and I'm going to break my family down, all of that, the guilt and the shame are coming from that thought of, well, this is going to destroy my family and I'm going to tear us apart and break us down. That's why you feel so much guilt and shame. It's because of those thoughts. So, friend, I would totally recommend like sitting down and doing what I call a thought download, and just allowing yourself to go to that place. It sounds like, obviously, I'm not talking to you face to face. I don't have all the information, but it even sounds like you haven't even allowed yourself to really like go there and to explore your options and what's going on. So go there. Just allow all of those thoughts to come out of your head so you can see it. I feel like there's so much more power when you can get those thoughts outside of you. It's kind of like, oh, wait, I do have options. So, and just look at it with a lot of curiosity and compassion, but I would totally stop telling myself that I can't leave. Anyone else have anything they'd like to speak to with that? Yeah, Bryan and then Lani.
I think it was Lonnie that said, go to the why, right? What's the why behind it? But I also want to piggyback off of yours. Like, anytime we spiral down, like things are going to go bad, things are whatever. These are stories. Like, our brain is handing us a buffet of thoughts, and only we're not filling up our own plate. We're letting our brain fill it up for us. So we want to fill up our own plate of thoughts. But you could also explore that, like Heather said. And what are the other what ifs? What are the upsides? Like, what's happening in a family dynamic where there isn't the love being shared? How is that having an impact? And so you get to explore those things. But
to that, I would say, and your question really resonated with me, because I think I hit a point in my life where I told myself, like, oh, I put my life on hold to do all these other things for other people. And in the end, I realized that I had a lot of fear in, like Heather said, doing a thought download. Like, what if I present my partner with these things that I love and he's like, go for it? Then I'd be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Like, you just gave me permission to live out my dreams. And that's actually scary, right? Because, there's the fear of rejection, failure, right? Like, taking our biggest dreams and maybe someone saying no to them or them not working out, that feels terrible. Your body feels terrible, your brain saying no. And so I love Heather's idea of a thought download and sharing it. I mean, you said, and to me, what really I heard was, you married a great guy. So are you giving him credit for that? Are you allowing yourself to give him credit for being a great guy and offering these things to him? So that piece is what made me think, oh, well, have you talked, really shared this with him? So.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, we have 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up. So here's our, and thank you, our amazing participants. Thank you for these questions. This is gold right here. This makes it all come together. Okay, I get really angry at myself when I say yes to people. I only say yes because I can't say no. What if they don't like me? What if they talk bad about me? I spin in circles with the worry about what others will think about me. Listening to you all talk, I can see that I don't love myself. How do I start saying no when I am so worried about what other people will think? What an amazing question. Who wants to speak to that? All right, Bryan, take it away.
Just really quick, every time because I'm guilty of this too. I don't like to say no. But think about it, like every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Like if I say yes to more engagements when it comes to coaching and things like that, I know that it's taking up my time for whatever engagements I could have, whether it be with my wife or whatever it is. And so in this case, it sounds like these yeses are saying no to yourself. So you can start tracking it again and just say, what am I saying no to by saying this yes? And you can list it out, and you can start at least have it in front of you and face to face and realize what you're saying no to. And then ask yourself, what would it be like if I said yes to myself? What would that be like? How would my life be better in that way? And then I like to say that this goes to loving yourself, and I hope this helps. Just like we have a credit score for our financial things, we have a credit score with ourselves, like our self-esteem score. So the small promises that we make every day and that we keep build our confidence in ourselves, and they raise our credit score with ourselves. So just doing one little tiny thing for yourself and keeping that promise every day is going to raise that credit score. So every time you say yes to yourself, you can put the marble in the jar or keep track of it, but you're actually raising your belief in yourself. So I hope that helped.
Amazing. Okay, next question. My partner and I are ships in the night. I work days, he works nights, but I want more time with him. He doesn't really get it. He wants his days off to rest, but I want to spend them with him. Help. What do you think, you guys? All right, Chris, tell us all the things.
I think one is, first I want to start with a question. Have you communicated this clearly to your partner? Have you told him how important it is to you? Have you let him know your why for this? And then have you asked him have you asked him why he doesn't want to spend time with you in these times when he's resting? And so maybe there's an overlap that's missing, that maybe there is something that you can do together when you're both satisfied. I think a lot of times in relationships, we think, well, we have to just compromise so much, but I think it's because we're not clearly communicating exactly what we want, and we're not listening to our partner and finding out exactly what they want, and we're not creating synergy. We're compromising all the time because the communication is lacking. So I say start there. Just make sure that you clearly express your wants, your needs, and your why for them, and then take the time to ask him and get his answers and see if there's some overlap and you can both get what you want.
It's so beautiful. Okay, I'm blazing because we have two more, and I'm not going to leave our friends empty-handed. Okay, me and my husband have nothing in common. I do wonder how we ended up together. Laugh out loud. I will do the things he loves, but he won't share in the things I love. Is this really sustainable? Great question. Who wants to speak to that one? All right, Bryan, go for it.
I know that my wife and I do not, we have a couple things that we share in common that we love to do, but there's all kinds of things that we don't. And it's going to go back to filling your own cup and being able to fill your cup by yourself first. So if you could learn to dig inward and do some soul searching inward, it sounds like it's in order to have certain feelings or whatever that you're relying on him to participate. I know that I need my alone time, so to speak, and I know that my wife needs hers as well. And so I would just try to explore those and see if there's opportunities in there where you can grow within yourself, because there's all these amazing tools out there we could use, but there comes a time where none of these tools work, and we need to be able to rely on ourselves. We need to be able to dig inward and fill our own cups, so to speak. So I would start there.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, this friend says, how do I show up for my friend who's in an awkward situation? Are you ready? There's a lot of good details here. Okay. Her friend is married, has a toddler, and a baby on the way. She lives with her in-laws and has their entire marriage. Her brother-in-law and his pregnant fiance are going to be moving in as well. She says her husband doesn't want to leave until they can pay to build a house. They don't have land or good credit yet, and he isn't willing to rent, but my friend feels stuck. So this attendee, you guys, is asking, how do I support my friend without feeding her negativity towards her husband? Amazing question. What do y'all think? Yeah, Norma?
I'll take a crack at this. I think some of this goes back to the boundary discussion. And maybe she could help her friend see that while the circumstance may not be ideal for their current living situation, perhaps there's some boundaries that she can help her create that would give her enough space to have enough space to kind of have her own space, even if
Yeah.
it's mental space, just being able to think clearly and just kind of navigate. I think that's one of the best things a friend can do for someone is help them navigate from a positive, a place of positive and a place of love and not necessarily, and I'm not suggesting this person's doing this, but kind of fuel the fire with more negativity. Do you know what I mean? It's so tempting when we're with our best friends, like, oh, I hear you, but that's just awful. You shouldn't be. It's so tempting to go there, but it doesn't always help. And in fact, it tends to throw more fuel on the fire.
No, totally. And I just think really briefly, sometimes I had a coach once that would tell me, what's perfect about this situation? And I would want to punch her in the face. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's nothing even good about this, but maybe that's just something. And you can just tell your friend, like, listen, I love you fiercely, and I'm not going to jump in this pool and drown with you. I'm going to throw you a life preserver. So seeing everything that's on the floor, like, tell me one good thing about this situation. Okay, you guys, this really is the final question. So all of you participants, thank you so much for these amazing questions. This is the last one we're going to take. Okay, so I think this is in response to one of the earlier questions, but the person says, what if the why has changed? When I met my partner, she was fun, adventurous. That was what I wanted then. But now I want a family, and she doesn't because she feels it would stop the freedom to be fun and carefree. I love her. But when I think about growing old without kids and grandkids, it makes me sad. When I tell her that I'm sad, she says to me, you can leave and find someone else who wants to have kids. I don't know what to do. What do y'all think? So I think, sorry, I'm going to pull this back up so I can see your words. Okay. I think first you want to be really compassionate and kind with yourself and just recognizing that when she said to you, hey, you can leave and find someone else who wants to have kids. That's just a circumstance. Like that was a fact. Those were words that she said. And you get to think whatever you want to think about your wife saying that to you. And you may be making it mean you're making it mean all kinds of things, but maybe just kind of like peeling back the layers and looking at this maybe a little more objectively because it's such an emotional thing. But it's like when your wife says those words to you, what do you think? What do you feel? And then how do you show up and what do you get? So again, you just want to recognize that right now it seems like wife has all the control. Like you want babies and grandbabies and she's taking that away from you. But what if that's not true? What if you just go ahead and take that back and it's like, okay, if I really want kids and I want grandkids and I want to stay married to my wife, how can I make that happen for myself? That's the question I would ask. Because when you're feeling stuck, just like we were talking about, and oh my gosh, I really want this thing, but I can't have it, your brain will keep telling you and showing you all the bad things. But when you open your brain up and you're like, listen, there's a way that I can remain married to this woman and get the grandbabies and the kids that I want. How am I going to do it? Like, I know that might sound crazy town USA, but allow space in your brain for a thought like that to see what you come up with and to see see the kind of actions that you take from that place instead of this place of like, someone is taking from me the thing that I want, if that makes sense. Okay. Well, my friends, we have come to the end of this amazing conference. And I just want to thank each of you amazing coaches so much. Lani, Chris, Bryan, Norma, it has been such an amazing pleasure to have you guys here to share your expertise and your ideas and your knowledge and your passion with us. I think we would all agree that everyone has benefited so much. And we just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that has attended and has participated in this conference and asked such amazing questions, like so amazing. And I'm sure you still have more questions and you still need more help. Guess what? We're not going anywhere. So come over to lifecoachuniversity.com. And even if there's one of us you want to reach out to specifically, all of our information is right there. And like I said, there's conferences and classes. There is no reason for you not to get help and not to find answers and not to get what you're looking for. That is something we can totally provide for all of you. So just to wrap up very quickly, I'm going to have each of our coaches just share a gem, a powerful truth that they have learned and adopted that's made all the difference in their own relationships. So we'll go Lani, Bryan, Chris, and Norma. So Lani, take it away.
What I loved about this is, and Heather, you kept bringing it back to that theme of self. So my relationship with others is very often a reflection of my relationship with myself. That was my takeaway.
Love it. Okay, Bryan.
That's almost the exact thing that I was going to say. What you see in others is what you're actually seeing in yourself. And so the conversation you have with yourself is going to be indicative of how you show up in every other facet of your life. So be aware of the conversation, be aware of that voice on the side of your head and what it's saying to you.
Amazing. Thank you. Chris?
Biggest thing for me in my relationship with my girlfriend is I've learned to take 100% responsibility for me. So my thoughts, my feelings, my words, my actions are 100% on me. I am in charge of those, no matter what she says, no matter what she does, no matter how she's feeling. I choose my thoughts, my feelings, my words, and my actions, and I have zero control over hers.
Boom. So good. Okay, Norma.
I think for me, it goes back a little bit to the part about kind of like putting my own oxygen mask on first before I try to help anyone else. If I'm not asking for what I need out of the relationship, I can't give, or I don't feel like I can always give as much because I'm not getting what I need. So it's kind of that give, receive, push, pull that we all talked about a little bit. But putting yourself first sometimes is the best thing you can do to start healing the relationship with yourself.
Amazing. Yeah. And I just want to say amen, like ditto to all of it. I think the biggest thing for me is I've just learned that it is 100% my job to love me. And I'm going to own all of that. It's not anyone else's job to make me feel loved and amazing. That's mine. So again, thank you all so much for being here. We love you, and go out there and just start with you. Start working on being aware of what you think about yourself, how you feel about you, and how you treat yourself. And I promise you that as you work on that, it will totally have this amazing ripple effect into every other relationship in your life. Thank you so much for joining us, you guys. Have the most amazing day, and we'll see you here next time. Bye.